I'm Susan Norton, and I'm currently on the executive board for the Arkansas Academy of Computing. With me today is Alese Stroud, a 2014 inductee for the Academy, and we're going to be listening to her story about computing. Alese, I wish you'd tell me the story of what first got you interested in computing.
Well, you know, I was an art major in college. I was in commercial art with a journalism and education background. And when I graduated and got into the workforce, I got really interested in the equipment that was coming out that we were using to produce type. You know, you key in type, and it produced this reel of punch tape. It was paper tape. And you would mount it up on this machine, and it would print out type. So it was the early days of technology in the publishing industry. And I found myself working at Baptist Medical Center using one of these machines that, you know, increasingly had more power to it. And I found myself spending some time with the director of IT at the hospital, talking to him about whether or not we could attach my machine to his big mainframe machine and do interesting, greater, better things. And as it turns out, that didn't work, because there's async versus bisync thing that I never really understood. But in the process of having that conversation, I got really fascinated with programming. And found out that the people in his department made a whole lot more money than the people in my department. So I went to night school and learned how to program in BASIC and Assembler and COBOL. And shortly found myself working at Systematics, where I learned about banking. And the rest is kind of history.
Wow. Well, tell me about your career from Systematics. Then what led you to be able to establish Stroud?
I spent, I guess, 10 or 11 years at Systematics learning increasingly more technical things about programming and a lot about the business of banking by helping do software releases, helped write their tax system and their deposit system. So that was a lot of fun, but I found myself sitting in a conference one afternoon listening to all these managers from around the country have some pretty negative things to say about how much they had to pay for people to come in and do short-term projects. And the more I listened, the more I realized that work was exactly what I was doing day in, day out. So I did a little research, talked to some people about the availability of projects, how one did that, how do you go about starting your own company. And in the matter of about 3 or 4 months, I launched my own company, doing exactly the same thing I had been doing for Systematics every day. And it was a fabulous experience. Best thing I've ever done.
And so what year was that?
Oh, mid-90s.
Wow. And so you've been at it ever since?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
give me a perspective from your observation about how technologies have evolved as you have continued into your career.
Oh gosh, back to the paper tape thing. I mean, that was how we stored data when I was just out of college. And then we grew to use floppy disks, and then the disk got increasingly smaller, and now you have little thumb drives, and the machines that we used to use were, you know, ginormous mainframes that took up the size of your kitchen. And now you have more technology, more power than that on the phone in my hip pocket. So I believe that the access to power and the processing speed and the availability of data are the huge changes that I've seen. I dated a guy in college who had a printout in BASIC that was a sheet of paper, that it was a continuous feed sheet of paper that came off of the printer, and it had all the instructions you needed to take a rocket and go to the moon and back, printed out on this one piece of paper on one of those huge machines that took up a whole closet. And now you could do that on your phone in a matter of nothing.
So do you see any trends coming out that you're looking forward to?
You know, what I'm really excited about are the use of data to help people live better. More data about your pulse, your heart rate, your temperature. You know, now you have a little thing you can scan across your forehead and check your kid's temperature instead of doing something more invasive. Or we could talk about this band I have on my wrist that measures how many steps I take, that better informs how much exercise I'm getting.
Wow.
And I'm really excited about wearable technologies that help us have better lives.
That's really intriguing. The final question I have for you is, do you have any words of wisdom for young students coming out of college and into the workplace?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I do a lot of visiting with people who are starting their own companies, and I deal a lot with people who are just entering the workforce in my business. And I think the most important thing for them is to be entrepreneurial. Think about the company as if you owned it. Think about your contribution as if you owned the company. Don't just think this is just a job. Don't think about your paycheck. The other really important thing is for people to have a wide range of skills. I feel like that art degree that I first thought was such a throwaway has been my claim to fame as a programmer, because that and the journalism classes I took so early have made me a better communicator. It was early stages of data visualization, which is now such a big industry trend, but I've always been able to do that, always been able to take massive amounts of information and to communicate them in a way that non-technical people could understand. And so I think my words of wisdom to a young person would be, don't just take programming classes. Take some classes that enable you to communicate more effectively with the people that you're going to be doing business with.
That's excellent advice, Alese. And
Thank you.
I want to thank you and welcome you to the Academy of Computing.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.